It is the month of October, it is the spooky month, and generally, of course, it's all about mischief, the weird, the wonderful, the strange and the unusual, and, of course, a person who has extraordinary experience with that, of course, is Keith Linder, who's joining us all the way from the United States here tonight, so he's going to be our special guest. I guess as we roll through the first few minutes, let's just have a bit of an amble, as it were, and let guests have an opportunity to click on their links to come and join the conversation. So in terms of ASAP Communications, let me give you a bit of an update. So the magazines for Seriously Strange issue 163 are at the printers. I got a notification from them today to say they are being printed. Actually, they were being printed today. So what this means is those magazines, to my understanding, will be, when they finish their printing, they will go out to our ASAP members who are paid members, and they will go to Norrie Miles, but she's due to go on holiday on Saturday. So hopefully those magazines will turn up before that. If not, we're going to have to wait a week before they get shipped off to everyone. But hopefully that's not too much of a problem if that is the case. So they are due to go to her, then she will put them in the envelopes, and then she will distribute them out. Unfortunately, the printers wouldn't send them out directly. You can check that out on asap.ac.uk. So, as I said, the guest waiting in the wings is Keith Linder. I've got a bit of a bio for him. But the one thing I'd actually like you guys to do is I'm just going to share my screen to my other monitor here. So, Keith is also not only an experiencer in terms of the poltergeist phenomena he has experienced over time, he's also an author. And I'd like to show you. You can go to Amazon and you can buy his books. They are available. He has a number that is on here: the Bothell Hell House, Poltergeist of Washington State, Poltergeist Night of the Psychics, and Poltergeist of Washington State Part 2, and many other books. So please, it's really worth going back and actually checking about the history of Keith Linder's very particular case, because it is a poltergeist case that defines the archetypes that are out there about what a case is. And I believe Keith will illuminate to what I mean by that when he gives us our presentation this evening. So Keith is an IT professional. His hobbies are fishing. He loves sports, basketball, the outdoors, movies and sci-fi. He's a member of the community just like we are. He's a proud geeker for just about anything technology, and in his free time he loves to barbecue, wine taste, and be amongst friends. You know, he really is a man of the people, and as such, his case, he's been able to articulate the data and articulate the information extraordinarily well, despite the terrifying accounts that he has experienced along the way for what is now probably getting on for 15 years. So Caroline is waiting in the background before I jump over to Keith. Caroline, is there anything you wish to say before we jump into our presentation here tonight, sweetie?
Just obviously, you're now looking for new magazine articles and Anomaly submissions. So if anybody has any submissions that they want to be peer reviewed for Anomaly, or that they want to have included, it can be a story, it can be something personal to you for the magazine, even a poem if that's something that you would like. As long as it has a paranormal twist, please send all of your information that you've got over to us at publications@asap.ac.uk.
Yeah, my apologies there, Caroline. I was about to jump in, introduce Keith, bring him onto the stage, and I realised I hadn't gone, hey, Caroline, is there anything else? But of course, it's the joy of live broadcasting, I guess. So, Keith, I can see you're waiting there in the wings. How would you like to come and step on this virtual stage, my friend, and come and say hello?
Yeah, thank you, Christian. Let me go ahead and I guess I can see my screen widening up the slide deck. 1 second, I'm going to go off camera, everyone, as I do this presentation. And then, okay, perfect. Yeah, thank you for the introduction. Thank you both for the invitation to once again reappear and then talk about the Bothell case, the Bothell House, coming live from the United States, Seattle, Washington specifically. Hello, everyone. I see some familiar faces out there. Some I've talked to before offline and online. Greetings. Also, I see some new faces. Those who are new, hello. My name is Keith Linder. As he said in the introduction, I'm a senior program manager / IT specialist. That is my day job. I have no affiliations with the paranormal prior to this event, this experience, which began May 1st, 2012. Today's slide that you're going to see, I'm going to talk a little bit about the Bothell House. my information that I'm sharing. Hopefully, a lot of you are already familiar with the case. Hopefully, after this is done, you get re-familiar, even if you are familiar and want to go over covered ground. That's the purpose of my slide deck, as well as the title that I selected for that. And we'll go through it and then hopefully ask me questions when I get done with the slide deck. So let's begin. Just a little background about the Bothell Hell House for those who are not 100% familiar. Yes, May 1st, 2012, me and my then girlfriend Tina moved into a house in a suburb of Seattle, Washington, and I guess immediately began experiencing what we now know today is to be poltergeist activity. We did not know that at the time, obviously, because we have no experience with the paranormal. But like previous poltergeist cases, the poltergeist doesn't care. Matter of fact, I think they probably prefer the less you know about them, the better. We experienced activity for 2 years before our claims and ordeal went public, and then 2 more years before finally moving out the house. To say it was a living hell while living there would be putting it lightly. It did dissolve our relationship. Everything you associate with poltergeist activity happened in the house tenfold. And we're going to talk about some of that tonight. Some of the things, this case, when I get questions and emails and chats and texts and whatnot, what our case is known for or got famous for, if you will, and to a degree, understandably so. It's fascinating. It's a sensational element to it, like all poltergeist cases that meet the press or go public. Was the burning Bibles and wall writings. We had several of both, multiple occasions. 3 Bibles did catch fire at will on their own, spontaneous, without human involvement whatsoever. In addition to that, we had a litany of wall writings, inexplicable wall writings. What you see in the picture is just one example. This, what you see, happened December of 2016, December 15th to be exact, my birthday. Other wall writings preceded this, other wall writings and burning Bibles and other fires preceded these things. And so it's what I ask most about the burning Bibles. Where were they located? What were the conditions of? Were specific pages burnt and were specific pages spared? Good questions, by the way. Awesome questions. And I try to answer all of them to the best of my ability with the facts that we have obtained and that I know. Nothing gets invented. Nothing gets guessed at, as well as the wall writings. Some of you know by reading my previous books, some of the, substance was tested and analyzed. And a lot of the wall writings was, scary. Like you see here, Die KL. That's my initial you see on the wall there. Keith Linder, Die KL, with an upside down stick figure of a man with very sharp pointed scissors stabbed in the dead center of the head. Very unsettling to see that, or wake up to see that. But in addition to these frequently asked questions, I feel there's a lot of other events that happened in the Bothell house that I don't get questioned on. And I wish I did. One cannot really ask a question and answer it because both are in his head already. So I can't really put the question to the viewer, but I do wish the viewer, having studied the case, having read about the case, would ask me, because I think there's a lot of there. And if you put it, condense it all, what's not asked about this case that I feel should be, in my opinion, supersedes both burning Bibles and wall writings. And we're going to talk about that right now. So let's begin. So what got overshadowed or unappreciated, I feel, pretty much, I guess, on day one, the kid cough. If you're familiar with this case, May 1st, 2012, it's a day I'll never forget. It's a day Tina will never forget. Was the day we went to the Bothell home, not to move in. We're not moving in this day, ladies and gentlemen. We're coming to the home to sign the leasing papers. Okay. After the homeowner had left, the house is empty. Nobody lives in it. There's no power. We're sitting on the bottom floor in the living room talking about what we're going to do with the house, what's going to go where and when and all that. Tina lives in her location. I live in my location. So we have not yet cohabited yet. The house that we're about to move in, we're going to cohabit. We're going to live together. And interesting enough, as I read other Portuguese cases and other paranormal teams, there's a paradigm that's out there that I want to address that I think this kid cough exposes or challenges is this entity or Portuguese or whatever did a kid cough in the middle of our conversation. We heard it loud and clear. We both looked at each other and said, was that a kid cough? As you can see from the arrows, it looked like it sounded came from upstairs. Full disclosure, we have no kids. We have no pets. And this is very early on. Sometimes I get chimed or asked in a laughing manner. Had I heard the kid cough, I would have moved out and never moved into the house. I hear that a lot. And some of the things that paranormal teams, when they've investigated the house or other cases that I've studied, you know, if you think about it from a spirit's perspective, there's a lot of movies out there, haunted house movies, a famous one called Get Out. It's always implied the ghosts don't want you there. Okay. You're being haunted. You're being terrorized because the ghosts want you to move out. Okay. There was even a famous movie called Get Out to bring that point home even further. And I've read literature and other documentation about, just leave, cut your losses and leave. The spirits are they're going to haunt anybody who comes through that door for what variety of reasons, and people leave and whatnot. I don't think that's so crystal clear or applies to this case, meaning that here's the spirit who gave us a kid cough on day one of signing the leasing papers. We're not even close to moving in yet. And it was almost like a trigger upon moving in, hearing this kid cough, because having talked to other previous occupants of the home, and they didn't experience anything similar, only one family did. It just does not seem that, okay, we're trying to terrorize these people to the point to where they never will live in the house just by simply doing a kid cough, meaning that me and Tina at the time had no background with the paranormal, and we ruled out what we heard as a kid cough as simply being noise to have come from either from outside or an unnamed source. So the kid cough did not frighten us in any stretch of the imagination. There are other ways to scare you out of a house, I believe, or to get your attention other than something as very ambiguous as a kid cough. Seems rather adolescent if you think about it up close. And other events are going to unfold. But one of the things I did uncover, and I think the kid cough was the beginning of it all, was, and Steve Mera mentioned it briefly in his investigation and analysis, is it seems that there's a sort of synergy that as soon as me and Tina step foot in the house, we're the ingredient to something in the house which was now dormant, immediately waking up. Okay? By meaning dormant, we're the synergy, we come through the door, and the added missing ingredient. Another family, previous families could have come through that same door May 1st, 2012. Dormant stays dormant. Nothing whatsoever happens. However, Keith and Tina come in, kid cough, almost immediately. I find that very interesting and too uncanny to just be a coincidence. So I think there's some more discussion that needs to be had around that, as well as the date of, as well as we're just there signing leasing papers. And then we hear this kid cough. And once again, those familiar with this case knows that evidence obtained by other paranormal teams, and I'm talking about evidence, I mean EVPs, AVPs, some were of the kid nature, meaning tone and whatnot. So, okay. This is one of my favorites, not the fact that I witnessed it or experienced it, but something I feel is overshadowed that doesn't get talked about. It's not so much the multiple apparition sightings that only I saw, which is his own question right there. Why did I, not Tina, see apparitions? Tina has never gone on record and told others to have seen an apparition. She always asked the question, why? But I did. And if you can see from the pictures, I've always saw the apparitions in the same place, even though they're 2 years apart. So the first apparition was summer of May 2012, what I refer to as the Gray Lady, in which I describe as full-bodied, not translucent, not semi-invisible, not transparent. This Gray Lady turned off the light physically in my room. I heard the click of the light switch and took off running. I heard her pitter-pat footsteps. I, not knowing what I was looking at, gave chase. And of course, when I turned the wall or the corner of the hallway, she or it was gone. Fast forward to 2014, and now I'm in my office, different time of day. I see a white apparition. Once again, full-bodied, not transparent, not translucent. And this one, however, is not turning off anything. This one is walking from left to right, and it looks like it's holding something. This is not a picture of this. This is a reenactment, that's FYI, of that event. But what preceded her were rustling sounds like leaves or paper rustling. Now, what makes these things, I feel, worthy of being talked about and discussed thoroughly is both these apparitions and two others that are not on the slide deck or in the book all look like Rhonda. Who is Rhonda? Rhonda is the wife, the mother, the family who lived in the Bothell House from 2008, 2009, who had similar activity. I talked to Rhonda the summer of 2014, and she admitted so much as such. She said the house was a living hell. But the crux of this story is I talked to Rhonda. Rhonda was very much alive. The question I put before any paranormal enthusiast or poltergeist researcher is, why am I seeing appearances of Rhonda, who I've not met? Rhonda lives 300 miles away from me, but she did live in the house. The Gray Lady is interacting with me. It's turning off a light and taking off running. There's some theories about crisis or living apparition, but this Gray Lady is showing some level of trickery, sneakiness, intelligence, coy, haunting, if you will, stealth, if you will, and then taking off running. It's not manipulating the electrical in my room or office. It's manually turning it off. Okay. We know of other poltergeist cases, mine included, where the lights inexplicably go off and on without the need of a human presence or agent. That's what makes it mysterious. This, however, is different. This full body not only turned off the light, but took off running and had footsteps that went along with that. But both look like Rhonda. Now, when I saw the gray lady, I have not yet met Rhonda, so I did not make the connection. It was only till I met Rhonda and we did a few video chats via Facebook that I put two and two together and realized what I'm looking at roaming through my halls, who just seems to appear to me, looks like the previous tenant. When I did speak to Rhonda summer of 2014, she did let it be known to me that she and her son still, at that time, occasionally would still see shadowy figures out the corner of their eye in their current residence. She let that be known to me. Unfortunately, Rhonda, having tried to commit suicide 3 times in the Bothell house, and there's records to substantiate that. I have those in my second book, and some of you have those already. She was unsuccessful. She became suicidal in the Bothell house during her stay, not knowing why. But unfortunately, upon moving out, this happened months after we've talked, around August of 2016, Rhonda successfully committed suicide by walking in front of a moving train, I believe in Montana. Which when I heard the news, I was taken aback because it took me back to the times I was seeing the apparitions of her, were either gray or white apparition, a precursor to her fate. That's the questions I wish would get thrown at me, or the question I wish others would analyze and decipher for themselves, maybe find other use cases, previous cases throughout history of something similar, or is this new ground? Okay, because it's hard to ignore or forget the fact that you're having apparition sightings of an individual in a home, one that's interacting, showing some sort of intelligence. One is sort of like watching a movie because it's just going left to right. There's no interaction whatsoever. Something like stone tape theory or something to that effect, and then disappear as soon as it turns the corner as well. However, both do look like the previous tenant. And now the previous tenant is deceased. Once again, I just find that interesting and would love to study that further, or others study that further. Okay, let's talk about simultaneous overlapping activity. In my study and research of other poltergeist cases, I found cases where individuals reported activity following them to one location. I've not found one to say a report where activity followed to 4 or more locations by different individuals. Now, what you're going to see on this map here is the individuals who had activity where they are located first visited the Bothell house. One example of simultaneous activity involved me and Tina's best friend, where I traveled out of town on business, and Tina's best friend came to the Bothell house to stay with her. There was one particular night and morning where Tina was being attacked as well as her friend, and I was being attacked some 400 miles away in a hotel, still in the state of Washington, but 400 miles away. Upon calling each other that morning, we both had individual stories to tell, as well as Tina's friend who was with her. California, my friend, then attorney, friend first, attorney second, real estate attorney was her occupation, made one visit to the Bothell home, as a wellness check, sort of curious about what was going on with me and Tina, and she wanted to see for herself. I document this in my first book. Upon being in the home, made a sort of nonchalant kid-like gesture of come out wherever you are. And I'm paraphrasing, but I admonished or advised her not to do that. That's a lot of people come into the Bothell House or did and try to engage the spirit, not knowing that that's not a good idea. And people do that because they don't know what to expect. It's not that they don't believe you, but like everything else, they want to see for themselves. But the proverb holds true: be careful what you wish for. You might just get it. And she is a perfect use case for that. Leaving my house, she was on her way to California. She went straight to the airport. I started getting text messages a few days later, of activity in her home in California. Also, from leaving California, her and her husband, she has a summer home in Hawaii. So she went Bothell, California, meaning Beverly Hills specifically, Beverly Hills, Hawaii, Honolulu specifically. And upon arriving in Honolulu, in a house that she visits only twice a year, she only goes to this house in Honolulu twice a year. And the last time she's been to this house was over 8 months ago. Her and the family pull up to the house, keys, groceries, and all that. And a neighbor, seeing her like she's moving in after being gone away for so long, approaches her and says, and once again, I'm paraphrasing, says, we thought you were here. Last night and the night before, we heard noises coming from your house like a party was going on. We saw lights off and on. We heard footsteps. We heard chitter chatter. And she's like, no, I'm just arriving today. I'm coming today. We're going to stay a few weeks. And so imagine somebody telling you that you're going to immediately think home invasion, like somebody's in your home while you're not there. This is a summer home. It's Hawaii. That's sort of easy to do. Let me get inside the house and investigate. So she does. And upon doing so, she sees all her kitchen cabinet doors wide open, similar to what you see in my books about the Bothell House, of every cupboard open neatly. Fortunately for her, nothing was removed or anything like that. But of course, why would it be? And then from that point on, both Hawaii and California and home that she has in Seattle, Washington, had activity. Houston, Texas is also another place that I had of activity when visiting family members. And then the Yakima, Washington is the place where I went for business and had activity as well. Why do I think this is a very important to a researcher, or should be important to a researcher? Because the activity that I experienced in Yakima and Tina and Kim, her friend, experienced in the Bothell home happened on the same day. The same night. And what prevented us from calling each other that night to report, because Tina was frantic calling me or trying to, was all her calls were going to voicemail. I woke up that morning, I had no recorded missed calls from her, but I showed my phone to be off in low battery drainage. Also, I do, and I mentioned this in the Bothell book, and there is a link of the video. There is a video of my attorney's friend's house being attacked, meaning the lights are going crazy off and on. She can't explain it. And at the same time, I'm dealing with the same phenomena in our house. And this happened a few weeks and months after she got back from Hawaii. And her family were I guess, plagued with inexplicable activity for about 2 years. Okay. Uh, Sort of having their own problems, and it strained our relationship. They have since moved to the East Coast, and sort of like me and Tina's breakup, sort of like Rhonda's breakup, her and her husband broke up. Okay. This I feel is interesting or important because it explains a lot of things when people step forward with their claims and you hear a lot of people say words like attention seeking, he's hungry for attention, he's doing it for the money. Credibility is very important um, when reporting claims of poltergeist activity. I know this because I've been interviewed constantly by researchers, by parapsychologists. It's not personal. They will ask me questions over and over because they're looking for inconsistencies. They're trying to decipher the truth from the falsehood, the truth teller from the attention seeker. And so every information helps. One thing interesting about the Bothell House is the people who witnessed the phenomena in the Bothell House were me and Tina's friends. And like me and Tina, were successful professionals in their career. And I'm going to go through some of these one by one because I want to really bring this point home. Why I think anybody who tries to attack not only my credibility or Tina's, but waiting in the wings, if properly asked, are individuals, witnesses who, as you can see here, work for some of the most powerful companies in the world, and are my best friends. And they saw phenomena. They saw things levitate. They saw things fly. They saw electronic issues. They experienced electrical issues. They experienced touching. They've heard voices. They've seen shadowy figures. They've lost property. Okay. They've experienced an abrupt mood swings. But all of them have seen physical manifestation in the Bothell home. Number one is me, F5, Senior Program Manager IT with a background we just said in my introduction. Number two individuals that were my best friends worked at Phillips Healthcare. These are people with very prestigious jobs, prestigious job titles and careers, witnessing phenomena, who were not into paranormal per se, never really cared about it like I did. But after witnessing something like that with your own eyes, they will vouch and say, I was there and this happened. Two individuals working for Philips. One individual working for Cisco, same thing. Seen things, saw things, and therefore will go on the record and say, I was there, I saw this. Scientists. I know certain organizations like SPR and others have scientists as members, but this is different. These are scientists, doctors who work for the Fred Hutchinson Cancer Research Center. Some of my friends had a role or played a role in getting the COVID vaccine out to the public, who worked on the COVID vaccine. Tremendous scientists, the Stephen Hawkings of their field, the Oppenheimer of their field, well respected. Okay. And by knowing me, will go on the record and say they saw what they saw. Now, they're scientists, and as a scientist filters everything through what a scientist filters things through, they were taken aback. This slaps them in the face of everything scientific and what they believe in. But seeing is believing. And therefore, their profession, which tremendous amount of schooling, tremendous amount of knowledge, tremendous amount of contribution to the world and to society, or just at my house having wine and dinner and see something levitate, they have to reconcile that. And therefore, to this day, they talk about it with me. We talk about it with each other. Same thing, Amazon. Two friends of mine who work for Amazon, pretty much the largest merchandise retail company in the world over. Prestigious career. Would go on record in a heart's minute if asked, what did they see? How did they see it? Have not changed one iota of their story. Were there to see objects levitate, float, teleport, pass through a solid object. Verizon, Tina, once again, one of the largest telecommunication companies in the world. My girlfriend at the time. These are not individuals who would coax or come out as hoaxers or attention-seeking or liars or anything of that nature. Boeing, there's only two major plane manufacturers in the world. One is Boeing. This individual in the home, once again, objects levitating, teleporting, footsteps, witnessing me get locked out of my own house, push, shoved. Microsoft. Now, the Microsoft I put forward is four individuals who saw phenomena in the Bothell House. These are my friends. I did not count. Technically, I could, because there's a chapter in my book titled Xbox, where the developers of the Xbox saw unexplained, inexplicable phenomena. And that's very well documented in my book 1 and book 2. So the number is really up to about 11 or 12. But these four individuals are my friends. Everybody that you see here that has numbered by them are my friends still to this day. And of course, I've talked about her already, was the attorney, once again, who has her own story to tell and issues to deal with on how the phenomena, not only did it follow her, but some of the events, and I explain this in detail in my first two books, that rival some of our activity. So let's thought that'd be worth discussing. Okay, next slide. Okay, when parapsychologist Steve Mera and catalyst Don Phillips and Nick Kyle, former president of the SSPR, lived in the Bothell House for 2.5 weeks, they compiled over 500 Class A, Class B EVPs. A majority of these EVPs were viewed as contextual EVPs. And so what is a contextual EVP or AVP per se? Just to sort of give an example, this is not a discussion that happened in the Bothell House, but it does, I guess, bring the point home or give an example of what I believe a contextual EVP is you have a paranormal team in the house talking while they're conducting their investigation about, hey, what are we going to do for dinner, or where are you going to take your date next week, or whatever after this investigation. You're just talking to a colleague, just making chit chat while conducting an investigation in the house. It happens. And so the response from the other person might be, well, I haven't decided yet. We may go over here. We may go over there. I haven't decided yet. But the house, because y'all are investigators, have listening devices set up, not to record your conversation, obviously, but to record conversations that may inexplicably appear on those devices. Upon review of those devices, you hear in the timestamp or the time frame of when this conversation took place, because you can hear this person, you can hear your voice, you know your own voice when you hear it. In the middle of one person asking the question, where are you thinking about going? A voice, not the person you're looking at while talking to them, but another voice, a third party, answers Applebee's or whatever your favorite restaurant is in the UK. That was not heard through the naked ear, but captured on either one device, 2, 3, or several, and maybe a video device. And it's like the spirit interjects into the conversation to almost like want to provide an idea or suggestion. And so that's what I mean by contextual EVPs, and going back to the EVPs that Steve Mera and them captured in the Bothell House, as well as other teams. a lot of the EVPs were related to the conversations people were having, just natural conversations, and some were Q&A. Nikki Novelle asked a spirit a question, or she's just asking. She don't know who she's talking to. She's just asking out loud. And a voice comes back, show me how to. Carissa Fleck, who's in the office where the Bibles caught fire and the wall writings, is looking at one of the wall writings. And he's just asking, just talking to the air. Hey, did y'all do this? Who did this? You don't know what you're going to get. You don't know. But upon review and upon being vetted by others, to rule out anything other than what you believe it to be, the voice holds up under rigorous vetting and testing, and it says, just look at it. Here you have a voice of something who, by admitting, just look at it, is admitting that they might be the one responsible. Say, you caught me coming out of a burning house, we use that example, and the fire department arrived and the police department arrived. And they say, Key, did you burn that house down? And I say, well, just look at it. That's the culpability there. Other voices were the famous, it's a camera. Steve and Don are setting up equipment in the hallway. They're not even setting up cameras. They're setting up audio equipment. Of course, they're filming themselves, but they're there to set up audio equipment. And they're having trouble. I think it was the SD card issue. And upon review of the footage, two male voices. One saying, it's a camera. What I found, I guess, awesome about that EVP is it's guessing wrong, incorrectly. It's not a camera. It's audio. It's a mini GoPro device. It's an audio device, and it's saying it's a camera. But the level of curiosity demonstrated, the level of what are they doing? Meaning, what are Steve and Don doing to whoever's watching? I just find it unbelievable. Also, between Steve and Don, they're doing multiple takes downstairs in a room, filming Don's mini documentary. And most on takes, you do a countdown. I tell you, hey Todd, on 3, I need for you to do such and such and such. All right. And you nod, yeah, I got it. And then we practice a few times and we don't get it right. You either do it on 2 or do it on 4. But no, I need you, Todd, to do it on 3. So we do multiple takes, right? That's just the art of film and documentary making, I guess. But then you have this inexplicable voice that wants to interject and says on 3. Okay. Oblivious to both men, once again. And also, Carissa Fleck, once again, outside patio. She's not even in the home anymore. She's outside the home. Asking, are there any shadow people present? How many? And a kid voice, going back to the kid call, says 3. Answering her question. One of my favorite, if I could have a favorite, EVPs, as it ties into something other phenomena, meaning, and this one being the burning Bible. So those who know me know all my evidence, majority of it, if not all of it, is on my YouTube channel. There's a video today in the morning when me and Tina found this Bible in the condition that we found it. There's both picture and video. Okay. And so this video had been on YouTube for a while, and under the comments section, people start saying, hey, that looks like a face. And I'm like looking at it. I'm like, I'm not really into the pareidolia type thing or whatever. Like, yeah, kind of maybe. Yeah, if you look hard enough, yeah, I can see half a face there. I see the eyes, the nose, the lips. Yeah, but I just read people's comments and leave it at that. And then somebody said, hey, it looks like a face of Jesus. I'm like, yeah, maybe, kind of, sort of, yeah, shrug. Okay, yeah. To each his own in that regard. If you see that, good for you. Okay. The mind plays tricks on you. places just as a burnt Bible, you may try to make a correlation there or whatever. But interesting enough, more comments start piling up over months and years. And somebody emails us, hey, there's a voice on the audio. And I'm like, what are you talking about? There's a voice. Yeah, me and Tina were talking about the conditions of the burnt Bible. I said, no, there's another voice. And we found this with other audio and video, me, Steve, and Don and others, upon review of voices that have never been heard before, but are actually there. So this person says, hey, there's a voice, and they timestamp it. And I went back to listen and went to the timestamp. And as we're talking about this burnt Bible, me and Tina and turning the pages, assessing the damage, a male voice says Jesus Christ. So that was interesting. So now I got, okay, this face, which I was ignoring at first and like, I don't know about that. But now there's an unexplained voice, okay, to sort of back that up. So make of that what you want to make of that. But it was interesting. And like I said, it's on my YouTube channel for all to see and look and hear for themselves. Okay, so this is an interesting one that I feel doesn't get talked about because this is well documented in the Bothell House, and I can understand how it would get overlooked because there's so many moving parts to this one. And this one's a story within a story, and I titled this "Don't Leave Poltergeist Tantrum." So if you're familiar with my case, specifically if you read the Bothell Hell House, and I think maybe watch Steve and Don's documentary. When Steve and Don arrived to the Bothell House, I picked them up from the airport one night. They came from the UK. Must have been like 9 or 10 p.m. And they arrived to the house. They're arriving to the Bothell House. And Steve, I'm not going to tell you Steve's mindset, except to say his mindset, like most investigators, okay, let's do this. We're here. Okay, whatever. All right. Nothing is never as was lived up to be, but we're here now. So we're here to get the truth of it or not. And I'm a little bit nervous and apprehensive because I'm the one who drove them from the airport. I'm the one who talked to them for 8 months before they came. Any person who experiences poltergeist activity, myself included, you might not know this, we're always worried about, is the activity going to happen when the researchers arrive? I mean, the bona fide researchers, because if it doesn't, we look like, make-up people, like we made it up or we over-exaggerate. So there's always that apprehension from the reporter, meaning me and Tina and others, about our things are going to be as active for you as it is for us when you're not here. And that's a whole nother topic itself. But in any event, we get out of the car, and I kid you not, Steve gets out of the car, and the front door opens by itself. And I don't mean like open like it was partially open, like I might have mistakenly left it open. No, it opens like an invisible person would open and welcome somebody home, except you don't see anybody there. And I remember the look on Steve's face, because he looked at me, he looked at Don, and he just had that look of wow, like, whoa. And I'm like, and I said to him, I didn't say out loud, because that's happened to me multiple times. I can tell you how many times what Steve and Don just witnessed has happened to me. So when I saw that, I smirked inside my brain. I was like, welcome to, you're not in Kansas anymore. I said that specifically. You're not in Kansas anymore. Welcome to Oz. But fast forward 7 days later, when they're about to leave. So we're about halfway through their investigation, 2 days, 3 days in. And these guys have traveled so far. They've done so much. They're working 18-hour shifts. And, I said we eating junk food, pizza and stuff, coffee and chips out the bag and whatever paranormal teams eat, on an investigation, we're eating that tenfold. And I said, your last night, this is 3 days before they leave, 3 or 4 days before they leave. I said, before you guys leave, I'm going to cook you a salmon dinner. Now, Seattle, Washington, the state of Washington, we're kind of known for, coffee and salmon. It's a thing. Because they've been asking, we haven't had salmon. We heard so much about salmon. We haven't ventured much into the city because we're on this investigation. I said, okay, well, I can cook you a meal. That I can do. And I'm going to cook you a meal, and that'll be the last meal you guys eat. And so it was the last night of them being in the house. And then I went and brought salmon and started cooking it, preparing it. And I put the salmon in the oven and set the timer, set the temperature. And as soon as I turned my back, from behind what you see here, that's the oven, sparks start flying. Pew, 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 pew. It's like somebody dropped a barrel of fireworks behind the oven. Pew, 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 pew. And the oven just goes out. Boom, it's done. Done. And the salmon, what you see here is a picture of it partially cooked. We couldn't eat it because it wasn't all the way done. And we had to once again order pizza. I called the homeowner the next day, and because I'm out of an oven. The oven is dead. I said, I don't have an oven. And I told him what happened. And then he thought that was weird, but he sent another oven. And the guy from Sears, the company's not around anymore, but Sears came over to install the new oven. And of course, I told him what had happened. And he's the engineer. He's a Sears oven installer, electrical, whatever. He's been doing this all his life. And so I just want to get his take on this on the record. I've always asked people who come into the house who repair poltergeist damage. They don't know that, but I asked them, firefighters the same way. I just want their take on this. And I told him what happened. So he pulls the oven out. And I said, sparks fly and all that stuff. He got all these testers to test the socket, voltage level and all that stuff. And he just scratched his head like, that ain't supposed to happen. That can't happen. And it's that, this thing is fried. It's like, it's, the digital elements to this oven is kaput. And he said, then there's not what surge? That's not supposed to happen. But so I thought that was interesting, meaning that the entities who heard me tell Steve and Dawn, before you leave, you can't leave until I first cook you a salmon dinner. From a sort of from a child simplistic adolescent standpoint, we've all been children before, where we have sabotaged something to prolong something that we might enjoy. Okay? For whatever reason. You have that mentality, that kid mentality of sabotage, or something. You don't want to leave Disneyland, so you do something to stay there longer. Okay, but I shrugged it off, but I couldn't shrug it off anymore until they came back on their second visit. And the second visit they came back, they brought Nick Kyle. Now, on the last day, because they had been there, I think, 7 more days, the second visit, which was April 2016, they came down there, and Nick Kyle was there with them. And the last day they're leaving, they all got their bags, got their passports, ready to go to the airport. And as they're going toward the front door to go to the airport, I didn't have to drive them. A friend was going to drive them. I was just seeing them off. As soon as they opened the door, all the fire alarms in the house start going off. Beep, 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 beep. To the point to where, there's no fire. To the point to where I think it was Steve or Nick looking in the directions of, like, they don't want us to leave. And I think I even said that to the effect also, no, they don't. No. And if you look at this, like I said, go from a high level of the EVPs of it's a camera, this and that, of them watching, observing. See, we often forget, as much as we're trying to observe them, they're observing us. Okay. And I think that sort of gets lost because I had one time, and it was a priest who works for Ghost Adventures. So take that what you will. Some demonologist, and this is early on, 2012, 2014. And, he was like, I want to help you, but I need evidence that your house is haunted. And so to prove that, I need for you, because I want to rule out your girlfriend. And I sort of got insulted when he said that because I'm like, dude, my girlfriend is not doing this. Okay. I mean, this conversation is almost over if you think that. Tina is not doing this. Okay. But we were desperate. He said, I need for you to install cameras in the home, in the ventilation, and in the plants and the foliage that she and they can't see. And by they, he mean the spirits. And I thought to him, like, and I was upset because he was saying install cameras so Tina couldn't see. He was really emphasizing so the ghosts or the spirits couldn't see. And I always thought that, well, you're assuming that spirits see like we see. Now, if you put a camera in a ventilation or something behind a wall, I can't see it. I'm limited by my line of sight. That's hereditary. That's nothing my power. That's just my limitations as a human being. I can't see through walls. But you telling me to put a camera in a ventilation because the spirit can't see. You have no data to say they see like we see. Okay. So going back to the oven exploding, going back to the fire alarms going off, and other examples, in all my books of the entities are observing. Okay. And, when I put a key or a wallet in the safe and turn the combination that only I know and come back the next day and my keys and wallet are gone, but nobody's turned the combination. Now, it's not because the spirit knows the combination and did this while I was asleep. And no, it's because from the level of where they're operating from to view us, the researcher, y'all, everyone on this call and elsewhere, they're viewing us probably from a dimension where walls mean nothing. Any barrier that you think you're putting in front of them, you're really putting it for yourself because it matters not. And that's what some of the evidence in the Bothell House shedded light on. The spirit's setting off the alarms, thinking like I said, from an adolescent, not from an adult, from an adolescent mindset of, hey, if I throw fire alarms off, we'll give you what you want. Say, don't leave. We're going to give you fire alarms going off by themselves. Will you stay? We're good? Can you stay one more day? That was the message being sent. Sort of like the same thing with, oh, he said they can't leave until they have the salmon dinner. Oh, so if we blow up his oven, they can't have salmon dinner. They can't leave. So that's what I'm talking about, poltergeist tantrum. But at the root of a tantrum is they're observing, they're watching. And like I said, the evidence from the EVPs and other cases suggests that, especially the contextual EVPs of, hey, I'm going to take Sally to the movies and after we're going to the restaurant. Where do you think I should take her? And you're like, I don't know, I have no clue. But a voice that neither one of y'all can hear says, oh, go here, take her there. And upon review, you hear that. They're trying to interject. Okay, so conclusion. The evidence contained from the Bothell House, in my opinion, puts to bed the theory of poltergeist activity being rooted in some form of RSPK, telekinesis, or human agent theory, as do other cases if properly reviewed. Majority of the activity people fail to remember is the majority of activity that me and Tina experienced. The word experience is not really the right word. It's because these activities happened when we were not even home. Both pictures you see, we were not in the house. Thank God. Thank God. Now, no alarm was tripped because the house was heavily alarmed and monitored. And this is part of a poltergeist modus operandi. Okay, this is done over and over and over and over and over. It fits some things and characteristics that poltergeist would do. But 85% of the activity happened, we came home to this. Okay? Which suggests to me that we're dealing with a third-party entity. Naturally, we're dealing with intelligence, something with the ability or capability of interdimensional travel, as well as interdimensional see-through or knowledge capability. Sentient versus sapient, or both. Going back to the kid cough of where all this stuff began, one of the things attributed to poltergeist phenomena, I know because every researcher upon review of our case or investigating ask and look for this. Oh my God, if they couldn't find it, they almost tried to invent it. One being Ghost Adventures, was turmoil in the home. It seems to be a belief that there must be turmoil in the home, and the turmoil in the home is the root cause of the activity. Not necessarily so. Several important things of why this is not the case. Me and Tina moved into the Bothell House May 1st, 2012. April 2012, I received a generous, huge job promotion. We were already successful in our careers and endeavors. We were 2 years into our relationship. We were just celebrating our 2-year anniversary of moving into our house together. And so this was probably, if you were to ask us, the highlight and thrill of our lives. We were happy. We were ecstatic. There were no bill problems. There were no drug problems. There was nothing, infidelity, you name it, health problem, issues unknown to be associated with turmoil in the home. One being we had no children. We had no adolescents. We didn't have any pets. We didn't have a goldfish. It was just us two living in a lovely home. If there was turmoil, it came after us, which was the poltergeist itself. The poltergeist is the turmoil, not us. It created the turmoil. And on that note, I will shut up and open for Q&A, if that's the format.
Keith, thank you very much for that. Greatly appreciated. Your insight is absolutely as deep and as appreciated as could ever be possible into this particular topic. Your case does stand there as one that does defy the conventions. It has been historically well reported, well investigated, and well documented. That is beyond the pale of many other poltergeist cases. In the UK, of course, most people would look at Enfield or the Battersea poltergeist or 30 East Drive, and while they indeed have had their period of time where there were a very, very rich, detailed investigation going on, compared to the level that you've conducted and what Steve and as Dom has conducted with your house, of your former house rather, truly exceptional reporting going on, and I find it's we're in a place now where is that we can start examining that properly. I guess that has already been conducted by some people. I can only wonder what the future holds for poltergeist research. I mean, I've been fascinated over the last probably 5 years or so, as many people have with the Skinwalker Ranch series, or what's going on with those guys there, looking at scientific evaluation, fact-based investigation with particular cases in a dedicated location. I mean, publicity, as it were. I mean, throughout this time, of course, many people will have seen when Zach Baggins came to your house, and they went away that particular time not seeing or feeling much at all, and they kind of concluded as much on that show. How did you find, with what you said there with Steve and Dom, that you were happy that they saw and experienced so much? Was that almost a kind of thankfulness that it did happen while they were there?
Yeah, and I sort of hinted at it earlier. And like I said, it's a natural reaction, human reaction to be believed, especially something as seriousness and out of the world as this, right? I wish Ghost Adventures found something. Okay, no person experiencing this wants a researcher to come in, regardless of whether they want or not, to leave empty-handed. We want you to find till your cup runneth over. Because we know what we see. We're not crazy. We're not delusional. Keep in mind, we were dealing with this 2 years before finally help arrived. So we've been sitting on it, spinning our wheels. So we're not going to bring somebody in. We don't want to waste their time, let alone our own. And we definitely don't want to be looked at as the one faking it or overreacting. So I was ecstatic when the door opened for Steve and Dawn when they came to the house the first time. I was doing cartwheels in my brain because on the back of my mind was the fear of they could experience what Ghost Adventures experienced, which is get nothing. And then where will I be? 2 strikes, So I was glad. Steve, if you talk to him and listen to his interviews and radio shows and books, he will tell you, for him, it was like a kid in a candy store for the time period he was there. He did not want to sleep because there was just so much activity to be had, to be seen, to be witnessed. And a lot of people forget that the spirits play a huge role in that. There's a talent that Stephen, Don, and Nick executed to where they can obtain evidence, but it takes 2 to tango, in my opinion. And the spirits were there willing to give evidence to those who they felt were worthy of it. Okay. And so me being on the sidelines watching, I was just happy they were able to they got and have a glimpse of what we lived through. No investigator is going to come in and see burning Bibles or wall writings. Those are specifically reserved for the home experience. But 500 EVPs, Class A, Class B, and multiple other things they saw. They did see a teleportation. They saw objects move, equipment malfunction, and whatnot. You could put 2 and 2 together. And that's what they got. And so I was ecstatic. Yeah, I was happy.
Man, I can only imagine. I was going to say, do you want to stop sharing your screen so we can see your lovely face?
Sure. Oh, no, I don't know about lovely, but I'll share.
Hey, there we go, my man. There we go. I need to try some of that Seattle salmon, dude. It's not something I've ever had, but I know it's famous for it where you are, man. Oh, did they actually get to try some Seattle salmon?
Unfortunately, no, they did not, because it was the last day. I'm pretty sure I cooked it on the second trip. We made steps to go out, probably out to eat the second trip, but no, not the first trip.
I was going to say, just before we entered into our conversation tonight, I was chatting to Keith and McGon. I was actually reading one of his books today, the very first book from 2012, and talking about the Grey Lady and the Burning Bible and so on. And they have almost become like the bookmarks of your particular case. I mean, so can you take me through, so when your case, and the passages I was reading at the time, before we came on, it was when you were quite desperate to get people to come in. You appeared to send quite a few emails to people. You mentioned that you'd emailed hundreds of paranormal investigation companies. You had emails that were going unanswered and phone calls that were going to dead numbers, effectively. I mean, having gone through that experience, to find an expert, I mean, what was that like?
Well, I can tell you what it was like finding both Steve and Don. Because I had given up on paranormal researchers after the Ghost Adventures episode aired, and I went to self-learning. I started spending time in the Seattle Library reading up on the Poltergeist and reading others' opinions and research. And I think 3 books I was reading, and Steve Mera's name kept popping up. And then on one of the books, it had his email address on it. A lot of them didn't leave their contact info, so it was a dead end. But emailing somebody and them responding are 2 different things. But he responded, and then I flood everybody with the same template that I had. Is you're going to get about 50 or 70 pictures, a narration, a condensed version of what was going on, and a little bit of audio and video, and then how to reach me back. And he did. And then we had a long Q&A that went on for several months. Similar with the US team led by Nikki Novelle. They found me. I didn't find them. They found me. And so I was ecstatic, a little bit lukewarm to the idea because I've been here before. My inner prayer was, I just hope everybody's worth their salt. The Poltergeists are going to do what they're going to do. They're going to bring their A game. Okay. And I just hope you, Steve and Don, Nikki and others bring your A game, because get ready. I can't vouch for what you did previously in other investigations or how you might have been disappointed, misled, debunked, found fakery and hoaxing or whatever, because you're basically chasing lightning in a jar. But guess here, this is the deal. If I put you in the game, I used to play football. You're in the game now. This is it. Show me what you got. So when they came, and then I start seeing they're taking these crates and stuff and pulling all this gear, I start getting more relieved. Like, good. They brought their A game, because I can tell you, teams in Seattle, nobody brought their A game. They brought literally a flashlight and a crayon. And me and Tina look at each other like, really? It's very frustrating when you to see that, but when you see somebody bring their A game, just like going to a doctor's office or an attorney, professionalism when you see it. Somebody who's got the bona fides. You sit in the doctor's office and they got plaques out the yin yang off the wall. You feel pretty good. Like, yeah, it's this guy. Okay, but you see one little plaque and it's halfway down there, and you're like, we'll get back to you. So yeah, I was happy.
Oh man. So when did I know we've mentioned that your activity still occasionally occurs, but it's nowhere to the kind of extent that it was. Was there a particular time when you became more confident in yourself that activity went down, that they were happy with you, as it were, and to stop putting you in a fear state? Do you think that's something you went through and then became, okay, it's happening, I'm comfortable with it?
That would probably be after, and I hate to keep saying their name, but probably after the Steve and Dawn first visit and my knowledge of poltergeists from reading books. I learned there is a light at the end of the tunnel, if you will, not to react to every phenomena that happens around you, because it escalates it. There's just like you can put a log on a fire, you can also take one off. And books and Steve and Nick Kyle was teaching me how to take logs off the fire. Don't run toward every loud bang you hear, because guess what they're going to do? More loud bangs. Don't throw holy water on everything you see. Just don't do what they expect you to do. Don't have a knee-jerk react. It's easier said than done, especially if you don't have no knowledge of the paranormal. And that's where poltergeists come out ahead in the beginning, because they know that. They knew me and Tina. Oh, these guys. Oh, we're going to have fun with these guys. He's the IT guy, tech guy. Oh, yeah, it's Camera City. Yeah, he's going to have all the yin-yang and gadgets and toys for us to play with. So let's get him on. Let's go. But over time, I started realizing activity lessons. There'll be a spurt when they try, like a kid. Once again, use that kid analogy of trying to get your attention, like Johnny in the store. I want some cereal. No, Johnny, you can't have cereal. We eat oatmeal. And he just starts going crazy, But you have to learn that. It's a psychological two-step. But knowledge is power. So the more I learned, the less the activity became. And so you just, like Steve Mera says, you starve the activity. His belief is you got to starve it to where it gets to a level of livable, manageable non-existence. Yeah.
There was something I'm not sure I mentioned to you. I'm sure I did. I can remember the last time we spoke. I was at work the following morning, and I was listening to our conversation that we had on the last time, and I was going into my work lift, and my work lift has these kind of electronic sensor tags at the side of my workplace. And when I was talking to you on the phone, and I walked through that, these sensors went off. As I stepped onto the lift opened up. It was actually almost like an extra person was walking with me while I was talking to you on the phone. Very, very strange.
I get that a lot. That happens. That happens so many times. I lose count. It can be scary at times when out in public with friends or at a friend's house. These things still happen today. Phantom doorbell rings, shoulder tap, equipment malfunction, interference, electrical interference, white noise. Here and elsewhere, friends would come over to my house for dinner, and it only happens when they come over, but there's a huge ear ringing, like a dog whistle, that we can't find the locale for. It only happens when they arrive. I've gotten used to it, but it drives them crazy. And I just say, if you ignore it, it's going to stop. They're trying to get your attention or be over or whatever. But being new to it can be unnerving, especially if you know the history of the Bothell House, but don't know the whole ins and outs of it. You think you're caught up in sort of, oh my God, it's about to happen. We're about to die. So I try to walk people back. Hey, let's just have fun and ignore them and whatever. And I've done radio shows, coast to coast AM, you name it, radio hostess, podcasts. Their cats and dogs are wailing in the background. You can hear them in the background. They're barking at a wall. My dog never does that. They're well behaved when I do interviews. But something about your case drives them up the wall. Wow. So I hate to say this because it seems like you should get used to it, but I've gotten used to it,
Oh, man.
The Bothell House is the site of an alleged haunting in Bothell, Washington. Between 2012 and 2016, Keith Linder and his girlfriend at the time experienced a wide range of anomalous activity in the house that became increasingly frequent and extremely hostile. The house has now been thoroughly researched by a variety of investigators who have together documented hundreds of sounds, light anomalies, voice recordings, and other far more sinister phenomena. The case stands out for the sheer quantity of occurrences, and for the lines it blurs between different types of hauntings, poltergeists, and even apparitions.
A truly exceptional and insightful evening with Keith Linder on ASAP Paranormal Webinars Live. So I was left with a bit of a quandary, in fact. The quandary is this. So the Q&A session that happened went for a good, half an hour or so, because the questions that were being asked were robust. They demanded a robust kind of explanatory answer, and the chat box was full of discussion. But beyond that, also there was an informal discussion where everyone was just like slapping their coffee and chilling out and having a kind of chill out session, discussing some ideas, some thoughts, batting around some ideas about time dilation and poltergeist activity, intentions, and beyond. And it's like, perhaps for this discussion here on YouTube, for this presentation, doesn't really fit. But I think, as it's October, it is the month that every paranormal infused, anomalist, researcher, whatever you want to call yourself, is engaged with. It's the month of October. Halloween is here, and we are, we're on guard, and we want to be thankful for the weirdness and the wonderfulness. So I wanted to make sure that, actually, I'm going to make it available for everyone. And if you're a member of Spotify, if you're a member of any of our podcasting platforms where you can subscribe to Seriously Strange, which is the outlet in audio and, of course, in video as well, that is available. Spotify, Amazon Music, it's on Audible, it's on Apple, YouTube Music, any of the audio platforms that you might use to collate your podcasts. You're going to find an extended version of this episode up on there. So I would recommend you go and subscribe to where we are located. So just search Seriously Strange on your podcasting app or into Spotify and you'll find us, where you can listen to the full conversation, Q&A, and informal conversation afterwards. And if you'd like to be involved with the ASAP Paranormal Webinars Live and you would like to participate live in the Q&A, you can do so by visiting asap.ac.uk to find out more.